Hi YouTube, welcome to the channel, welcome to Micro Rigs RC. So here we are again to answer some of the questions and the comments that I've been receiving on social media recently. We're going to talk about this micro rig that is right here. Of course, it's an Axial SCX24 in the shape of the Jeep Wrangler. As you know, it's not the super fancy new Jeep Gladiator that we will have, of course, later on. But well, at the moment, this is the build that we will be talking about this week, and it's basically a build about trails. So this is a micro rig that is supposed to work on the real environment in the outdoors and working in the real trails out there. So we're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about some of its aspects, the electronics, how it works, how it performs, the things that I thought that were important to focus on. Basically, I want an all-rounder, so I want the rig that will be working day and night, dry and wet. Come with me and let's take a look at this rig and what are the main secrets. First, in this rig, we have to talk about the electronics of the ESC. I wanted to keep this truck on a brushed setup, so I will not go with the brushless yet. I have another SCX24 that has a brushless FuryTech setup, of course. But for this that I wanted to keep brushed for a different reason that we will be discussing later, I want for the Modelbau-regler AS1215, I think, which is very unknown, let's say, brand, at least for the main mini crawler is thin. This is not the super famous FuryTech ESCs and like the Lizard and the Tegu. So this is a ESC that was originally not intended to be for micro crawlers. I think it was for scale boats and all that stuff, but it can perform really well. It can go really slow and really smooth with low end control and with a lot of torque, and it can stand face to face with the FuryTech electronics for sure. It's very light because as the FuryTech is just a very small electronic PCB, and of course it's made in Germany because it's a very small company that is based locally in Germany. So the main disadvantages of this ESC are: one, this doesn't have a low voltage cutoff to protect the LiPo batteries, so you can just drain and kill your battery absolutely. And it doesn't have a switch to simply switch on and off your car. You have to unplug the battery. I know that this, especially the low voltage cutoff, has been recently fixed by the new model. They are currently now launching a new product that is specifically built on purpose for micro crawlers. So they have LiPo protection, it has a big back, it has a more resolution, more low speed control. Amazing, it's just amazing. It still doesn't have a switch because they wanted people to disconnect the batteries, because otherwise people just switch it off, they forget to disconnect the batteries, and then the batteries can go drain, etc. What I did, as you can see also in my previous episode about the styrene, how to work with styrene, what I did is I made with the wiring a solution in which I have fitted my very own switch to control and to switch it on and off here, and also to fix the issue with the low voltage. What I did is I fitted this LiPo alarm that is displaying all the time the voltage of my battery. It also works as a battery checker, so I can just on the fly while I'm crawling, I can see how is my battery. So with that, I fix it. It works perfectly. It's really interesting how it works. I will show you some videos on how it performs in a very slow, but you can see Donald Sneff videos which are really more technical and really more detailed on how these perform compared with the FuryTech, even with the Hobbywing 1080. So I think that if you want to go deeper into that, you can take a look at that video. I will try to put the link here to go and access, because he knows way more than me, and he will let you know more options and why this is way better. For the servo, I didn't go nuts with it. I just put the Emax digital servo. By the way, I don't know why so many people put the analog servo if it's almost the same price as the digital, which is better, faster, more powerful. I don't know, but well, most of the people used to put the analog, but I always prefer to go for the digital one. And of course, I have the steering links in metal. I go for the most simple and the cheaper ones from Amazon. Um, for the receiver, I have turbo racing. I will show you more about that in another video because I want to talk about these controllers because they are super easy to control. They have a lot of options that you can program, up to 15 models inside. You can control a lot of rigs with it, and you can adjust the exponential for the steering, for the throttle. You can touch the endpoint adjustments. It's doing more or less the same that the radio links and the fly skies of like $100 more or less do, but in a super cheap format, and also it's very small. You can drive with one hand on it, and it works perfectly. I really like them, especially when I go outdoors. So about the motor, as I said before, I wanted to remain with a brushed system. So what I did, and it's a shame that you cannot see it anymore because I just put a plate here because I'm planning to relocate some of the electronics and to put some weight down here. But so basically I fitted the 050 motor. It's a brush motor, aka the barrage motor. In my case, was not from a barrage. I think it was coming from an FTX Outback Mini 3.0, something like that. So yes, it's basically a 050 motor. It came with its specific motor plate because, as you know, the drills for the bolts are in the opposite direction. So it's very basic. You can just drill new holes in the plastic motor mount. In this case, it came with an aluminum motor mount with already the screws done. You can very easily got that from Banggood or AliExpress, maybe probably from eBay, etc. So I went for that because the brushed motor in this case was cheaper. It performs really, really good. If you have a very good ESC like the FuryTech or like the Modelbau-regler here, it can crawl super slow, super smoothly as well. It doesn't have anything to envy or to be jealous from the brushless system. Of course, with the brushless FuryTech, you can go super weirdly smooth. This is not going that smooth, but I think it's more than sufficient for everyone's need. And also because it's fast. I mean, it's really fast. It can have a lot of punch. It can go really fast. Now we are running on 2S. I think it's 3S capable. At least the ESC, it's capable to run on 3S. I still have to try it. I tested it recently and it goes really fast and it has a lot of more punch and power, but I didn't need it at the time. And I don't know if long term the motor will toast or not. I think the motor is rated at 7.4 volts, which is for a LiPo 2S. I don't know if it's going to resist and it's going to survive for a 3S on a long term. We will go through that later on. For the lights, I think it was very important if you are preparing something to go outdoors and to perform in the real world outside, to have very good lighting, because one of the things that I enjoy most from this type of things is to crawl at night. This is more realistic. It works perfectly with this light controller and all that stuff. You can control the lights individually. You can just make whatever you want with them, with their indicators. I think it was especially good to have very good LEDs in this case, and also I put a very nice LED bar. I think it was from AliExpress, from GR Run or something like that, one of those cheap brands. It came with the rack, which is metal, but it's very light because it's aluminum and it's very, very thin. So you can see it doesn't add any weight to the top, and it has a very, very powerful LEDs, as you can see in the driving footage. So apart from that, I'm very happy with the lightings. I also added a couple of LEDs here on behind. So I think it was really important with that. I fitted a very strange light controller that we have. It's called, it's from a very small manufacturer. I think it's actually one or two guys. It's called Lane Boys RC. It's basically one light controller that you can see over here, in which you have to solder currently all the LEDs cables, and then you can get a preprocessor here that you switch to the rest, that you connect to the rest of the electronics, and you can program it with your PC. It's very easy. We will talk about that on a future video because it's really has a lot of potential. You can do whatever you want with that, and especially for the people that love scale modeling, it's just awesome. Suspension. I think that one of the key elements for a rig that you want to use for trails is the suspension, because you have to consider a lot of things and a lot of aspects in the suspension for this type of rigs. For trail, basically you want clearance, so you want to get stuck on any sticks or bumps or stones or pebbles that you find, and at the same time you want stability because you want to drive not only on very hard terrain but also on the long term between different obstacles. You want to run and to go, so you want also some stability especially when you're driving fast, of course. So you have to balance that, because if you want clearance, of course, so many people used to ride high. The higher you ride, the less stability you will have because the car will start to tremble, and of course you add more weight to the top and it's gonna flip easier. And also, if you want a lot of stability and you run low, you will be like getting bind with a lot of stones and stuff. So what we did here is kind of have a balance. Of course, as you can see, I was running on clearance links, which are these metal links that I have here. They are basically running more or less at the same running height, so you can also run low with that. But at the same time, the shape of the links, it's having more clearance, so they won't get landed with the belly in the inside when you are transitioning different type of inclinations or leaning backwards and forwards. So I think it was a really good upgrade. It's from Injora, so it's very easy to find in any AliExpress or any type of similar online shops from Asia. So it was really cheap, very easy to assemble. Of course, take care to put the links in the right position, which is with the bend right here next to the axle, not the other way around. I have seen a lot of people there already in social media fitting the links the other way around, which is totally the opposite that you want to achieve here. And at the same time, when you work with the suspension and you want stability, I didn't want a super long travel suspension like these other rigs like here that has a very long travel, as you can see. I wanted something that has less travel but is damped. So I didn't want nuts with a lot of oil-filled stuff or aftermarket suspension. After testing very different aluminum and metal shocks from different brands, I found out that, as many said before me, doesn't make any improvement over the OEM shocks. So what I did is what they call the grease mod shock. It's basically to disassemble the shock, put some heavy, thick grease inside, so it actually actuates on the piston as it slows down and it dampens, so it works more or less like an oil-filled shock. And I had also to put some stiffer springs that I had from other sets over there. For the rear, I kept also the same OEM shocks. I just added a zip tie here to add more tension in the spring, so I wanted to have it more settled. This is because I don't want the shocks to go fully compressed or fully extended. I wanted to have some compression, of course, here and there, and also I wanted to have some drop, like what they call, so it can expand and it can compress. As you can see in these videos, especially in the low motion, you will see that the car is no longer actuating like a pogo stick, and it's not bouncing, it's damped. It damps all the things and it stomps the bounce. So this adds a lot of precise drive and a lot of stability, especially at high speeds. This is something that for me was a game changer when I was driving this car in the trails. And let's talk also about the balance. As you have seen before, when I did this rig, first thing I used to relocate the electronics. So instead of putting the battery right here behind, which for me was totally nonsense. I put the battery always right here in the front. I also added wheel weight from the ones that you can use in your very own car here on top of the servo, because I wanted to balance a bit more weight up front. Here I have the switch and most of the cables, and in top here I made a tray already using most of the material that already came with this rig, and I just place here the ESC, the LiPo alarm, the receiver, light controller, etc. So what I did here, and of course you can see I have some brass diff cover to lower and to put more weight in the bottom and in the front. I put some brass knuckles here, and I have also brass wheel weights up front, not in the rear at the moment. So with that, I'm achieving a more front biased wheel weight, as you can see. And also this is very important because when you are going scale, for example, this spare tire used to be very heavy in most of the RTR vehicles. This is a fake spare tire. As you can see, what I used to do is I use a tire with a plastic rim, and I empty the rim from behind, and I also cut all the rubber that I don't want, because maybe a couple of grams, but it makes a small difference. So it's just a styrene, super light plastic holding there, and just this super light fake tire, spare tire. I still use the rear bumper because it's not impacting a lot in the departure angle. As you can see, I removed the stock front bumper and I fitted this metal bumper because it's reducing a lot the approach angle from the other one that came OEM in the RTR vehicle. It outstands a lot in the front, and it was cutting a lot the approach angle. So with this, which is way shorter, and it's also very good looking, it's made of metal, you have these realistic hooks here, and you have also place for more LEDs from here. It has also the hole for the winch if you have any, so it's really convenient, and it doesn't add a lot of weight. Also, the roof rack, it's very lightweight because this version that I found, it's made from aluminum. It's very, very thin, so it's resistant. I have been rolling over a lot of times and even hitting from the top of the car from very high, and nothing happened. It resists a lot. And even when I made some of the scale luggage, like this type of things that I want to add to the top with some sling ropes, this is just a sponge that it only weighs like 1 gram. So it's nothing adding weight to the top of the rig if I wanted to fit it. No more weight here, no added weight here, because it's totally empty and it's really, really light. Wheels. As you can see, I went for the metal chrome wheels here just because they look awesome. I think it suits perfectly the style of the Wrangler, so it's kind of a legendary wheel design. And I had to work a bit on the bolts and screws, as you can probably see here. So instead of using these long head screws that came with the wheel, I had to use more flat head nuts. I had to machine them with the drill machine to have them lower. So basically what I'm doing is lowering how much the head of the bolt outstands from outside of the rim. And with that, I wanted to make some space to fit the inner brass wheel weights up front, because otherwise it would be touching and you cannot fit them. And about the tires, of course, I have one of the all-time favorites, are the RC four-wheel drive Goodyear Wrangler MTRs. Those are a really, really nice all-rounder tires, have a very good tread pattern. It performs really well in the mud, in the rocks, in the sand, indoors, outdoors. It has a very, very soft and sticky compound. At the moment, I'm using them with foams. In this other rig that I have here, more for crawls and more slow stuff, I run them just on the air that it's inside without any foams, because it's way softer and it conforms and articulates more the rubber to the surface in which you are crawling. but I found that especially to have some lateral support, especially when you are running on a steep terrain, you want more support of the inner foam. So I'm running with the OEM foams from RC four-wheel drive that came with the wheels, and I'm really happy with how it performs, as you can see in the actual driving footage. So I think that's it. I'm really happy with this rig. This is probably one of my favorite ones, if not the favorite. At the moment, it performs really, really well. It can stand side by side with the 1/18 scale vehicles that I have as well. That, of course, are more capable because they're bigger, they have a longer wheelbase, and they are more stable. You have more time, more opportunities to distribute the weights and balance that as your desire. But this is performing really, really well. It's really fun to drive. I got a clear body to paint it myself on gloss black because I wanted. I really admire and really a fan of the black Jeeps. So I wanted to have this one painted black. As you can see, I have another one in red, and probably I will have another body experimenting with a pickup thing. But I really like it. I enjoy a lot driving that indoors and outdoors. I think that especially going in the dark is really funny with this rig because it multiplies the difficulty. It's more challenging and it's more fun in the end. It's kind of a more adventurous drive, and I really like all that. So I'm really enjoying all the inventions. I'm really enjoying the Modelbau-regler ESC. I learned a lot how to weld and how to make wiring for all the electronics, how it works with the switch, with all the stuff that I did myself. And I am working on other rigs, but still I have this as my favorite. So that's it. I hope you like it too. If you want to comment something, if you want to say something, ask any questions, whatever you want to tell me, of course, feel free to put it out in the comments. I will be happy to answer as soon as I can. And of course, suggest me more content. I have more content coming about the CR18 that we are preparing and all the bodywork that it had. I'm preparing some content about the light controller. I'm also preparing some content about the crawler obstacles that you can prepare homemade, about these controllers that I have over here. Lots of things. So remember to stay tuned and subscribe.